And tonight on JoyNews Prime, drama in Parliament as Deputy Minority Whip brings sanitary pads and menstrual cloth to the floor of Parliament, demanding the removal of taxes on all sanitary pads as the 2024 budget debate nears conclusion.
Mr. Speaker, this is what the girls in the rural communities are losing. That's why we are crying. That allowed them to also get this one free of charge.
Well, she got a response from a Deputy Minister for Finance.
We all as women appreciate this, and that is why government, as a first step, is taking out or removing the taxes on these locally manufactured sanitary towels.
Again, why has President Akufo-Addo refused to sign the law that criminalizes witchcraft accusations for months after it was passed?
Those bills have not been sent to the president, but he hasn't. The speaker knows about it. And I'm surprised that he came and made this address, made it appear as if the president was trampling upon the constitution. Nothing can be further from the truth.
The minority says the president is breaching the constitution.
The bills, after approval, after passage by this House, was sent to the President months ago, Mr. Speaker. It's almost 2 months now. So clearly, Mr. Speaker, there is a constitutional breach.
Also coming up, the Office of the Special Prosecutor suffers a setback as an Accra High Court quashes an adverse finding against the former Commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Colonel Kojo Damwa, retired, and his deputy, Joseph Eduche. Drama in Parliament as Deputy Minority Whip Comfort Doyoe took the 2024 budget debate to another level when she brought a sanitary pad and menstrual cloth to demand that the government removes all taxes on sanitary products for women. Finance Minister Ken Ofori announced in the 2024 budget zero-rate VAT on all locally manufactured sanitary pads. But Comfort Doyoe is not happy, insisting so many women and school children cannot afford and have had to resort to the use of pieces of cloth, which is unhealthy. There's more in the following report.
The budget debate is almost over, and today we saw something different from what we've been seeing from MPs who are debating the 2024 budget and economic policy. The Deputy Minority Whip, Comfort Doyoe, was on the floor waving a piece of cloth and sanitary pad to make the case for the total removal of all taxes on sanitary pads.
This is 20 Ghana in the market, and I spoke to the girls in the rural communities. I want to run myself as vice chairperson for the women caucus in this house, and I asked them how they afford to get it, and the women told me, those who have 4 girls said, I have 4 girls who are in their poverty stage and they are menstruating. They cannot use 100 Ghana a month to buy for them because they cannot afford 3 square meals for them in a day. So what they resort to is to use this one for them. And Mr. Speaker, this is what the girls in the rural communities are using. That's why we are crying. That allowed them to also get this one free of charge.
The Deputy Finance Minister, Abinosi Asari, who was in Parliament at the time, sought to respond to the claims that had been made by the MP, insisting government had taken what she called the first steps.
We all as women appreciate this, and that is why government, as a first step, is taking out or removing the taxes on these locally manufactured sanitary towels. And as a first step, Mr. Speaker, all the raw materials that are used, that are imported to produce sanitary towels, we are bringing the revenue measure to Parliament to take out the import duties. And also, Mr. Speaker, beyond that, the locally manufactured ones too, government is taking out the VAT. And that is the first step because, Mr. Speaker, these businesses will also have to thrive. And so we need to start from somewhere. And that is why government is taking up these initiatives to introduce these ones.
The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, who's been presiding on the sitting today, as we've all known, is a vocal critic of the taxes on sanitary pads and called them a sin in the time past, still insists those taxes must go.
Because it is not right to tax the period of any woman. It's not right. Tax the period. When you tax sanitary pads and pads, it's taxing their period. But the proposal has come to eliminate it, and that is what we are looking at.
Tomorrow, the minority and majority leaders will conclude the debate on the 2024 budget and economic policy. We are going to hear more from the NDC on why they think this budget is useless and empty, whilst Osei Chairman Sabonsu is going to make the case for why he believes this budget is addressing some of the key economic issues that the ordinary Ghanaian has been facing over the last few years, which government has blamed on COVID and the war in Ukraine. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Now, the minority in Parliament is accusing President Akufo-Addo of breaching the Constitution of Ghana by his failure or refusal to sign into law an amendment to the Criminal and Other Offences Act, which criminalizes accusations of witchcraft and the practices of witchfinders. The bill, sponsored by Medina MP Francis Sosu, was passed in July this year, but 4 months down the line, the president has not signed the bill into law, with a number of killings related to accusations of witchcraft recorded since then.
The Criminal Offences Amendment Bill, together with the Witchcraft Bill, was approved by this House months ago. Mr. Speaker, these are bills that I have personally followed. And I'm aware that the bills, after approval, after passage by this House, was sent to the President months ago, Mr. Speaker. It's almost 2 months now. So clearly, Mr. Speaker, there is a constitutional breach. And this House must take steps to deal with the constitutional breach that we have seen on the Criminal Amendment Bill and that of the Witchcraft Amendment Bill. Mr. Speaker, it's important that we take steps to deal with that. Clearly, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution guides us as to what we have to do when the President fails to assent to bills that has been approved by this House. So, Mr. Speaker, we are in your hands so that in the coming days we may have to engage you and then take steps to have this matter resolved.
Now, the majority leader, Chairman Sabonsu, has been explaining why the president has not signed the witchcraft bill passed in July. Addressing journalists, the majority leader said there have been substantial errors in some bills passed by Parliament, including the anti-witchcraft bill, for which reason it is yet to be sent officially to the president for his assent. He expressed surprise about the outburst of the speaker and the minority that the president has sinned against the Constitution.
Of course, the bill has come to be known as the anti-witchcraft bill. Parliament has passed it, and it was done in July. And ordinarily, it should have been sent to the president for his assent. I must state emphatically that those bills have not been sent to the president for his assent. The speaker knows about it. And I'm surprised that he came and made this address, made it appear as if the president was trampling upon the Constitution. Nothing can be further from the truth. And going through, I realized that there were major challenges, things that Parliament ought to have paid attention to. Unfortunately, I don't know whether it was because we were rushing through, they did not pay attention to them. So when I looked at them, I invited our officers at the legislative unit and drew their attention to them. Because when I looked at them, I made some comments. For instance, the head note raises issues to do with, more or less professional witchcraft hunters. Who's a professional witchcraft hunter? Right? I mean, that in itself is problematic. And then there were so many areas that there were clear challenges. Now, do you send that bill in that state to the president for his assent only for it to be for it to come back, or maybe for the president in the process of assenting to it to chance upon these mistakes and send them back to us. Is that what you want to do? There's a third one that has gone to the president. That is also another criminal offences amendment bill. But that one has some constitutional issues. You know, the Constitution provides that a bill, if a bill that is going to exact on the consolidated fund, it cannot be entertained in the House if it is not sponsored by the executive. Now, that bill relates to commuting executions to life sentences. If the courts pronounce that somebody must be executed, and then you are saying that that person should not be executed, he will be sent to prison, maybe for life. Who takes care of that person? It's the state, right? So the state then is going to have to spend money from the consolidated fund on that person.
Well, members of the Coalition Against Witchcraft Accusations, CAWA, are also not happy with the president. Professor John Auma is the executive director of SANE Institute and a member of CAWA, and he joins us live now for an interaction on that. Grateful for joining us, sir. Now, you are unhappy with the president. Why that?
Yeah, good evening, and good evening to your listeners. We are absolutely disheartened. We are very disappointed and very unhappy with what is happening with the situation as it is now. This bill was actually passed in July, 4 good months ago. This bill was never rushed. This bill has been in the making for 3 years. Very important discussions, conversations have been held. And MPs met. They went through the bill one line after the other. These MPs were not just lawmakers, they were consummate lawyers in their own right. And so, some of us were part of the process throughout. And so for my majority leader to say that the bill has issues, it makes me really wonder what sort of errors and issues the bill could have. And the reference that he makes to is very, very innocuous. That should not, if he was never part of the discussions. And we heard after the bill was passed that the majority leader was absent. And when he came back, he called for the bill and put a hold on it because he wanted to make input. And so to say that the bill has flaws in it, has errors in it, this bill was bipartisan. It was passed by both sides of the House. It was unanimous. And so to make it look like it's a partisan bill when vulnerable lives are at stake is very, very disconcerting. That is why we are very, very unhappy.
So if you disbelieve that the bill is fraught with errors, what do you think could possibly explain the delay in the president signing or assenting to this bill?
Well, we are entering into the realm of conjecture, and we have our own suppositions, we have our own suspicions. You know, as we have been working on this, we have known that all along that the witchcraft accusation, there are people who have made it a big business. There are some powerful people who are benefiting from the witchcraft accusation. And the witchcraft accusation, the victims are largely, almost wholly vulnerable, voiceless, rural, marginalized women. Not many people care about such people, about the victims. And yet there are powerful voices. Some are pastors, and I'm sad to say because I'm a pastor myself. Some are community leaders, and they are benefiting from this witchcraft accusation business. And we would not be surprised that some of them are behind the scenes lobbying to make sure that the bill is not assented to. The president is a human rights lawyer. When people have been killed in the past on witchcraft accusation, the president has come out to renounce and denounce and call it all the right names, as barbaric, as unacceptable, that it must not be happening in the present day Ghana. The president has had the opportunity 4 good months to sign this bill into law. And the Constitution says that if there are issues, they should point them back to the parliament. They have had 4 good months. No action has been taken. This tells you, my brother, that common, ordinary, poor people in Ghana never get a hearing. Nobody cares for their welfare and their well-being. And that is what is so troubling to some of us.
Okay. Any action you intend to embark on to force the president to assent to this bill?
You know, we have been trying for the past number of weeks to even just visit the president. We didn't want to go public and to make noise in the public. We wanted to go and visit the presidency, submit a petition, call upon him, pleading with him to sign the bill. We have not had any success in that. We even have tried to meet the gender minister, the Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, under whose outfit something like this neatly falls. Our efforts have not been met with any success.
Okay.
All of this is telling us that there are issues that somebody knows that we don't know. And when we knock the doors and try all the back channels and the diplomatic channels and it doesn't work, we will come out in the open, we will make noise, we will demonstrate, because civil society organizations, this was a private members bill that we as civil society organizations worked very hard upon.
Okay.
And we will not sit down and let it be thwarted at this very last point. We will plead with the president that for the sake of his legacy as a human rights lawyer, as a lawyer himself, as the president of this nation, as someone who has compassion for vulnerable victims, he should sign the bill. If there are issues, they should point it out and they will be fixed. And the bill should be signed by this president as a testament to his long, illustrious legacy of human rights advocacy.
Okay. Prof. Auma, I'm grateful to you for joining us tonight here on the JoyNews Prime. Moving on to other stories, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has suffered another setback as an Accra High Court has quashed an adverse finding made against former Commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Colonel Kwadwo Damwa, retired, and his deputy Joseph Eduche in its entirety. The court, presided over by Justice William Bwampong, quashed the adverse findings against the two on the La Bianca case and prohibited the OSP against further investigating grounded on the adverse findings. But the OSP is fighting back, insisting that it did not constitute itself into a court or a commission of inquiry in arriving at the findings in the matter. The OSP's report in the La Bianca case accused the former commissioner and deputy commissioner of the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority of misconduct in granting favorable tax treatment to the La Bianca company. Legal Affairs correspondent Richard Kwajo has more in this report.
On August 3, 2022, the Office of the Special Prosecutor released a report on its investigations into alleged corruption and corruption-related offences involving the La Bianca Group of Companies and the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority. The OSP's report, among other things, implicated officials of La Bianca and the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority for their various roles, which saw the company that deals in the importation of frozen foods benefiting from a reduction in the company's tax liabilities. One of the names mentioned by the OSP is Colonel Kwadwo Damwa, retired, who was then the Commissioner of the Customs Division of the GRA. The OSP's investigations also found that a Deputy Commissioner of the Customs Division of the GRA,
2022
Joseph Eduche, issued an 2022
to
ruling for importation made by La Bianca. The ruling was said to have been approved by Colonel Damoa retired and did not appear to have been brought to the notice of the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority. Colonel Damoa accused the OSP of targeting his person in an attempt to bring him down. He intimated that the report was hollow and actuated by malice. The two, feeling dissatisfied, asked the High Court to quiet adverse findings made against them by the OSP through a judicial review. The court granted the prayers of the two and quashed the adverse findings made against them by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. The court indicated that the OSP acted in excess of its mandate. The court concluded that the OSP is not a court of competent jurisdiction or a commission of inquiry to make adverse findings. It also prohibited the OSP from further investigating Colonel Damoa retired and Joseph Eduche in respect of these adverse findings. A cost of 10,000 Ghana cedis was awarded against the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But the OSP has been fighting back. It insists it acted within its mandate. The OSP says it rejects the decision of the court in its entirety, and in arriving at the findings of the matter, the Office of the Special Prosecutor did not constitute itself into a court or a commission of inquiry. They say the findings were based on investigations carried out by its office, and the OSP is mandated by law to publish detected acts of corruption, and its publication of the investigation report is in accordance with its statutory mandate. They say the decision of the court is extremely inimical to the fight against corruption and the administration of justice for a court to prohibit investigations, and they will not permit this decision to stand. Reporting from the court complex, my name is Richard Kwejonya for Joy News.
Now, the minority in Parliament says it stands by its position that the import restrictions legislation will rather collapse other industries, contrary to claims by the sector minister, Katie Hammond. The NDC MP also holds the view that any policy close to import restrictions, which gives ultimate power to the sector minister, gives room for cronyism and corruption. Trades Minister Katie Hammond has been speaking to Evans Mings on recent developments.
We are not banning.
No, restricting.
We're restricting,
yes.
But we're restricting to the extent that we don't create famine in the country.
How do you propose to do that?
Well, exactly. So you see the committee that has been put together, Agriculture Ministry, Ministry, how many of them? You got a copy of
you have the ministry, you have the Ministry of Agriculture, you have the Finance Ministry, you have the GRA, you have
the food and whatever, FDA.
Yes,
they are all there. Go to the page. They are all
including the associations like
so
AGI.
all of them. And so there is this committee that meets and monitors food production in the country. So it's not a simple question of just sitting down one afternoon and determine that you can get a certificate or permit or not. No, the ministry is responsible, particularly Agric. There has been quite a lot of liaison between our ministry and Agric Ministry before we came out with this. We thought through. If in the end, the committee through the Agric Ministry tells us that there's a deficit, the deficit between production and consumption in the country is this much, so this much has to be imported, it will be allowed through. It's as simple as that.
So what you're saying is you would allow imports, yes, so far as it doesn't create shortage locally?
Absolutely. Of course, so far as also doesn't flood the system. So, to the extent that there will be starvation in the country, we would ensure that the right quantity is allowed into the country. What we would not do, and repeatedly I'm making this point, is to simply get up and arbitrarily.
All right, so, I mean, the full interview involving Evans Mings and the Trades Minister will be played on the PM Express tonight at 9 p.m. Do make a date for the full interview if you missed out earlier. That particular interview will be played again for you at 9 p.m. on PM Express, where the Minister explains all the details about this particular LI that he intends to lay in Parliament. Murtala Mohammed is former Deputy Trade Minister and member of the Trades Committee of Parliament, and he joins us via Zoom. Now, grateful for joining us. Now, the Trades Minister explains that the LI does not entirely ban the import of items into the country. So this should rule out the fears that you have, right?
Well, it shouldn't rule out the fears we have. Our concern, all along has to do with the exclusive powers given to the Minister for Trade. And to be on this issue, it's not just an MPP Minister of Trade. It can be abused by even an NDC Minister of Trade. If it is exclusive, the minister who has the authority to grant anybody who wants to import anything into this country. And I think that for me, that is a very dangerous step the minister wants to take. The other issue
Well, so that's the former Deputy Trades Minister, Murtala Mohammed, that we're interacting with to find out what they do make of this, LI. So we do have him back. You are making a point. Kindly conclude, so we'll move on. But conclude that statement for me.
I'm saying that our concern on the issue of it being abused or potential of it being abused has nothing to do with NDC MPP politics. Okay. It has to do with any minister of trade at any point in time. Okay. Again, on the issue of whether we have the capacity to produce enough to feed the country domestically, it is very clear that Evans, in engaging the minister, did a fantastic work by providing the minister with the figures of the goods that we have and our capacity to produce and the quantity we produce, which is woefully under, the quantity that we need to feed the domestic market. And for me, that is extremely worrying. Okay. It is the argument that there is a team, the argument that there is a committee that would determine whether a license should be issued or renewed, for me, is neither here nor there.
But Honorable, don't you believe or agree that through the implementation of this policy, local industries will be empowered to meet up with demand?
What you do is that you put in the necessary policy intervention that will boost production first and foremost. The reason why poultry farmers are not producing enough to feed the country is not that they are unwilling to do that, but they can't do that because of the cost of the input, particularly feed. Okay. I used to have a poultry farm. It's collapsed. I'm a farmer, and I can tell you, this year, a lot of farmers complain because birds ate the rice that we produce, particularly rice farmers. So I'm saying that you need to put in the necessary measures to ensure that you boost local production before you come with such restrictions. It simply doesn't make sense. Okay. Now, it is not as if it's something that must take time. Assuming this thing comes to effect, our poultry farmers are producing just less than 10% of what is needed domestically. Rice, we are spending over $2 billion in the importation of rice and poultry products into this country. Okay. Why is it so? So if you have that imposition, it is going to create a lot of problems. And it is not for nothing. All the major stakeholders are saying that they were either not consulted or they are completely against the move the minister is attempting to make.
So for you, what must change about this LI for you to agree that it should be laid and to help government achieve the aim of which it wants to introduce this LI?
First and foremost, the exclusive authority given to the minister has the potential of it being abused. Okay. It doesn't matter which minister, whether an NDC minister for trade or MPP minister of trade. Again, if you listen to the minister's defense, he said that the committee would determine whether the minister can renew a license or not and make their recommendation. Okay. When they make a recommendation, the minister can choose to accept the recommendation or not. Mind you, the members who constitute the committee are all political appointees. And when we argue that it can be abused politically, it's because those who constitute members of the committee are all political appointees. So, for example, if an MPP government feels that this importer is an NDC person, we need to deal with him. Or an NDC government feels that this importer is an MPP person, we need to deal with him. That is not the way to go.
Okay. Now, as a former Deputy Trade Minister, what alternative policy do you think will help government achieve the aim for introducing this legislation?
In 2014, as a result of the imposition of restriction on small rice importers into this country, because we noticed that the small rice importers were those who were not paying taxes. They were those flooding the market because they can bring in goods at any point in time. When we imposed that restriction sometime 2013, by 2014, we were able to reduce the importation of rice into this country by 40% and increase the production of rice by 60%. The measures we put in place, the first decision the Ministry of Trade took when this government came into office in 2017 was to lift that ban on small rice importers. And the ban was not for nothing. I was a deputy minister. Both the small rice importers and big rice importers petitioned the Ministry of Trade. I was asked to constitute a team to do an independent investigation. You know the people I used Kofi Kapito, who is a known MPP person. I used journalists from media houses. They went to Ivory Coast, brought in the goods, and I can tell you the report that was submitted to me as the then Deputy Minister for Trade by the team led by Mr. Kofi Kapito was that.
So we're still having a chat with Murtala Mohammed, who is a former Deputy Trade Minister, to understand. Yeah, so yes, Chief, you're back. You're making a point about how people brought you a report from Ivory Coast and helped you in such an alternative policy.
Exactly. In fact, we had what we call equipment. Fertilizer was made free, if you like, to cocoa farmers. You remember?
Yes.
You also remember that farmers were given tractors at discounted rate, and they were allowed to pay within a particular period of time. All these things have been taken out. Fertilizer cannot be taught. In fact, in my farm, I had about 300 acres of rice farm, and each 100 acre of rice farm, I needed 300 bags of fertilizer. Now, a bag of fertilizer was sold at 450 Ghana cedis. And so it means that multiply 300 by 450 and times 3. Because if you have 300 acres of rice,
all right,
so it is extremely difficult. What you need to do.
Okay, but the minister in that interview with Evans Mensah explained that if you disagree with his decision, you can go to the High Court. So why are people like you still afraid of this legislation?
The minister explained what?
That when you disagree with his decision, you can go to the High Court and challenge that decision. So why do you still harbor some fears that there will be abuse if the power is given?
I mean, listening to the minister, that was the most slippery comments I heard the minister made. People who are in the business of importing and exporting, particularly importing, everybody knows. And Evans asked him a fantastic question. Evans said, look, anybody in this country, whether you legislate that or not, if the person feels unjustifiably treated, that person can go to court. And I remember Evans asked him that.
Yes.
Why must it take an importer to go to court to seek a redress? This thing is needless.
Okay.
Put in the necessary measures, protect your domestic industries, put in the policy interventions that would.
All right, you're still watching JoyNews Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us. Welcome back from the break. Now, it's a two-horse race between the PRO of the Energy Ministry, Kwesi Obing-Fosu, and Deputy CEO of the National Youth Authority, Akosua Amenu Koji, as the two battle to lead the MPP in their Denton constituency. These two have stolen the spotlight as the third candidate, Winfred Nate, a polling station chairman, struggles to catch up. As we begin our build-up to the NPP's parliamentary primaries in the orphan constituencies, we shine the spotlight on the Denton constituency where the race is heated. Kwekwan Sante of our Legal Affairs Desk reports.
Denton constituency remains one of the key battlegrounds in Ghana's political landscape. No member of parliament for Denton has been re-elected since 2004 when the constituency was created. The NDC has won the constituency 3 times, while the NPP has won it twice. And as the NPP prepares to elect a candidate to represent it Ahead of the crucial 2024 election, the race has become heated as three persons lock horns vying to lead their party to unseat the incumbent NDC MP, Ademu Ramadan. PRO of the Energy Ministry, Kwesi Obeng-Fosu, believes he is the party's best bet towards attaining this goal.
As number one indicates a leader. If you have chosen one, you're already in the league. It means you are one and all the others are behind you. You understand? And oneness in its form means unity. So it means I am a symbol of unity. I'm the one that can bring everybody together. In the issue of Adenta, anytime we are united, anytime we come together, we win. So we are far ahead. Because as I said, we are winning this contest. And because of that, our focus now is the NDC. So we have advised ourselves that we are not going to antagonize anybody. We're going to speak the language of unity, love, and then ensure that we have peace so that we can win these primaries successfully and then go ahead to win the general elections, both for the presidential and then the parliamentary for the MP.
Kwesi Obeng-Fosu says he speaks and understands the language of delegates more than any of his contenders. He is facing an uphill task as he goes against Deputy CEO of the National Youth Authority, Akosua Menu Kozi. She wants to be the first female MP for Adentan, but not only that, she believes she is the best person to lead the party to unseat Ademu Ramadan.
My campaign, one of the themes is the big tent. Why? Because the big tent is, as the delegates have said, Apatakesia. Everybody can come into the safety net of Kozi because she is welcoming, she's open, and she didn't take part in any of the divisive games that existed in 2020. And I believe that's the strongest selling point for me when it comes to that. It also goes to what I believe is the dynamics. Again, it goes back to what they are crying out for, that let's give it to a female. Yes, there's been a parliamentary candidate who was female, but she didn't get the nod. But let's try it this time around, even when members of the opposition wished they had voted for a female as a parliamentary candidate.
The third aspirant, Winfred Nati, who is a polling station chairman in the constituency, cast himself as a grassroots candidate, but given his low popularity compared to Kwesi Obeng-Fosu and Akosua Menu, who are all national figures within the NPP, some have said the race has become a two-horse race between Kwesi Obeng-Fosu and Akosua Menu. The NPP is confident it will win Adentan because no MP wins twice, but it's obvious the quality and popularity of the candidate they elect will play a significant role towards this quest. It's a few days to the election, and the candidates are ramping up campaign with a number of social activities. So who wins? Time, as always, will tell.
And the election headquarters will be here to bring you coverage of the primaries at the Orphan constituency. So stay with us. This is still the JoyNews Prime. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with showbiz.
All right, now the 12th edition of the Trra Diaries, an award-winning ceremony for public transport system, popularly known as Trra, took place over the weekend at the Sizzle Gardens at Osu. Now, the event saw over 200 people troop into the venue to share their experience about the transport system. Now, the award ceremony celebrated people whose stories impacted the group positively. Lois Adeyemi has more in this report.
The hustle and bustle of patronizing Trra has birthed a worthy cause for Trra users. The 12th edition of Trra Diaries, an award for the public transport system, popularly known as Trra, took place over the weekend at the Sizzle Gardens at Osu. With over 200 people in attendance, the patrons shared their experiences about the transport's Trra Diaries, also a social media platform where people share their commuting and travel stories and connect with young people across Africa, served as foundation for the award. The award ceremony celebrated people whose stories impacted the group positively. It was an electrifying atmosphere as all attendees were treated to amazing music, jama sessions, good food, lots of stories, and education on public transport. Yao Odum, founder of Trra Diaries, explained that over the years, the event has gained massive recognition and positive feedback for the impact it has on communities.
Trra, as she said, is something that people look down upon. And so the idea was that imagine people seeing these amazing things. We've been recognized by Facebook on 2 occasions, UNICEF, UNDP and all that. And so when people begin to see this, then they realize that irrespective of whatever you have in Ghana, you can build something amazing out of it. And that's what we're trying to do here.
A few people who attended the event for the first time expressed their joy for discovering this group and promised to attend subsequent gatherings.
I think this is my first time, and I promise you guys next time I'll be coming here.
I'm gonna tell you, the picture's already saying a lot. My friends already excited, like, hey, what's going on? And so I know for sure next year, come whatever, I think they're all gonna come out here, and I think we're gonna do big things.
All right, thank you for coming, yeah? Next time we'll be there together, yeah?
Definitely.
Okay, that's how it is. Yeah, thank you very much for coming, okay. So that's how we wrap it all up. But